Number 1. Scallions. Few vegetables get used as often as scallions. A pinch on eggs, a handful in soup, a last-minute toss in salad, and yet most people just buy a bunch every week at the store, never once thinking about growing their own, even though this is one of the easiest crops in the whole garden. Sow the seed directly into warm September soil, about a quarter-inch deep. It germinates fast, usually within a week. Space the rows close, about 2 inches apart, since scallions do not need bulb-forming room the way onions do. Full sun works best, though a little afternoon shade is fine too, once the days start getting shorter. Keep the soil moist while the seedlings settle in. Here is the part most first-time growers miss. When it is time to harvest, do not pull the whole plant. Take a pair of scissors, snip the green tops about an inch above the soil, and leave the base right where it is. New growth comes back in 10 to 14 days, sometimes faster, which means one cutting is never really the end. A single September planting can give you 2 or 3 full rounds like that, right up until a hard freeze finally slows things down. So the scallions you keep buying every week could just as easily be growing a few feet from your kitchen door instead. Number 2. Copenhagen cabbage. Cabbage has a reputation for being slow and fussy, the kind of crop that takes forever and rewards you with one single head at the end of a long wait. Copenhagen cabbage breaks that pattern. It forms a dense, round head, faster than most other cabbage varieties, which makes it one of the strongest choices on this list for a real harvest before winter closes in. This cabbage wants full sun and rich soil that holds moisture without staying soggy. Set transplants about 12 to 18 inches apart so the heads have room to fill out. Gardeners in zones 7 and warmer can often start this directly from seed in September, while colder regions do better starting with transplants, so the plant has enough of a head start before frost slows things down. A little compost worked into the soil beforehand goes a long way, since cabbage is a heavy feeder right from the start. Watch the heads as they mature. Press gently on top. A firm head means it is ready. Wait too long past that point, and the head splits right down the middle, which ruins the crop in a matter of days. Get the timing right, and Copenhagen cabbage becomes one of the most satisfying pulls of the fall garden. A full, solid head, sitting where a bare patch of soil used to be. Number 3. Chives. Chives are perennial across most of the country, so a September planting is not just for this season. Get it right now, and you are setting up a patch that comes back on its own every single spring, without ever having to plant it again. September works in its favor in a way spring never could. The cooler fall air helps the roots settle in and grow stronger before winter arrives, since the plant is not fighting summer heat while it establishes. That head start matters. A chive patch planted now uses these last mild weeks to build a root system strong enough to survive winter and come back fast once the ground warms again. Chives are not picky about where they go. Partial shade suits them just as well as full sun, which makes them more forgiving than most herbs, and a good fit for that one awkward corner of the garden where nothing else seems to take. By spring, that patch will already be full and ready. Fresh chives just a few steps from your kitchen door. Snip straight onto eggs, soup, or whatever dish needs that sharp, oniony bite. Number 4. Sugar snap peas. Most gardeners think of peas as a spring crop only. That misses one of the best plantings on the fall calendar. In many areas, especially those with mild winters or long, cooling autumns, a second window opens up in late summer or early fall. This lets you harvest peas as temperatures drop again, often producing a crop that outperforms the spring planting. Sow the seed as soil is already warm, so germination happens fast, usually within a week or 10 days, and the plant grows straight into cooler weather instead of racing against rising heat the way a spring crop does. That single difference is why fall peas often taste better than spring ones. Timing shifts by region. In zones 5 through 7, get seed in during the first half of September, since peas need several weeks of mild weather before the first hard frost. In zone 8 and warmer, planting can stretch into early October. Sugar Ann is a fast, reliable variety, often ready in under 60 days. Check the pods every couple of days once they start filling out. since sugar snap peas turn from tender to starchy fast. Eaten straight off the vine, they are crisp, sweet, and closer to candy than anything found in a store bag. Whether tossed raw into a salad or eaten as a quick snack right in the garden. Number 5. Collard greens. Collard greens are another solid pick for September. They handle both ends of the season without much trouble. Late summer heat barely slows them down, since their thick leaves and deep root system hold on to moisture better than most greens. That same toughness carries them straight through hard frost later on, when a lot of other crops would already be finished for the year. Full sun and soil worked with a little compost give collards the best start, since they are heavy feeders right from the beginning. Space plants 18 inches apart. They grow large, and crowding them stunts the outer leaves that make up most of the harvest. In Zone 7 and warmer, a September planting can produce straight through fall and into winter. The first frost does not hurt collards. It improves them. Cold triggers a starch-to-sugar shift that softens the bitterness and sweetens the leaf. Harvest the outer leaves first and leave the center growing. One plant can keep feeding you for months, and the flavor only gets better the colder it gets. Number 6. Endive. Endive is a cool weather crop, and this is the right time to get it in the ground. The fading light and dropping temperatures that make late summer frustrating for other plants are exactly what endive has been waiting for. Sow the seed now, in a spot with a little afternoon shade, and keep the soil from drying out as it establishes. From there, it grows steadily through fall without much fuss. The bitterness people worry about is easy to manage. A couple of weeks before harvest, gather the outer leaves and tie them loosely, or set an overturned bowl over the center of the plant. Blocking that light keeps the inner leaves pale and mellow instead of sharp. Frost helps even more, and without any effort at all. A light freeze does not damage endive. It sweetens it, softening whatever bitterness is left. Harvest by cutting the whole head at the base once it feels full, and use it while it is fresh, since the flavor fades within a few days off the plant. Tossed into a salad with something acidic like citrus, or lightly sautéed with garlic, endive brings a flavor nothing else in the fall garden quite matches. Number 7. Butterhead lettuce. Butterhead lettuce is a completely different plant once September arrives. The lettuce that turned bitter and bolted back in July has nothing in common with what grows now. Cooler air slows the plant down. That slower growth is exactly what gives the leaves their soft, buttery texture, instead of the sharp, tough bite summer heat usually forces on lettuce. It is the kind of head that is hard to find sitting in a grocery store bag. Sow the seed once the worst of the summer heat is past, ideally early to mid-September in most regions. Full sun works fine at this point in the season, since the intensity has already dropped off. Keep the soil evenly moist from the start, since lettuce roots stay shallow and dry out fast, and a little inconsistency here can slow growth or turn the leaves tough. It grows well in containers too, which makes it a strong choice if the raised beds are already full. Butterhead matures quickly, so expect fresh salads within a matter of weeks, not months. Pick the outer leaves as needed, and leave the center growing, and one planting can keep producing well into the cooler weeks ahead. Number 8. Fava beans. This next vegetable is planted with a different kind of patience in mind. Fava beans are not chasing a fast fall harvest. In many regions, they are planted in September specifically to establish through the cooler months and reward you with an early harvest the following spring, long before most other beans have even gone into the ground. Favas prefer full sun and soil that has been loosened deeply, since their root systems go down further than many gardeners expect. Plant the seeds about 2 inches deep and space them roughly 6 inches apart. Gardeners in milder climates, generally zones 7 and warmer, can often let fava beans overwinter directly in the ground, while colder regions may need to treat this as a very late fall crop instead. One advantage that often gets overlooked is that fava beans actually improve the soil while they grow, since they pull nitrogen from the air and store it in the ground. Planting them now is not just about the beans themselves. It is a way of setting next year's garden up for better success before winter even arrives. Number 9. Mache. If you want a vegetable that seems almost immune to cold, Mache belongs at the top of that list. Also known as corn salad, this small, tender green can survive temperatures that would destroy most other lettuce varieties, which makes it one of the most dependable crops for late fall and even early winter harvests. Mache tolerates partial shade well, and in fact appreciates some protection once the sun gets lower in the sky. Scatter the seeds thinly across the soil surface and press them in lightly rather than burying them deep, since they need light to germinate properly. Keep the bed moist during the first couple of weeks while the seedlings establish. What makes Mache especially valuable is how little it asks for in return. Once established, it needs very little maintenance and will often keep producing small, nutty-flavored leaves well after most of the rest of the garden has gone dormant for the year. Number 10. Mustard greens. Some vegetables are planted purely for speed, and mustard greens fall firmly into that category. If your garden bed just opened up, and you want something that will actually put on visible growth within days rather than weeks, this is one of the fastest options available for a September planting. Mustard greens grow best in full sun with fertile, well-drained soil. A half-inch of soil coverage is enough for the seeds. Once seedlings appear, thin them to 6 inches apart for proper spacing. They tend to grow quickly in the cooler temperatures of fall, often ready for a first harvest of baby leaves in as little as 3 to 4 weeks. The flavor intensifies as the plant matures, which means you can harvest young for a milder taste, or let the leaves grow larger if you prefer a spicier bite. Either way, mustard greens are forgiving enough that even a late September planting in most regions still has time to produce a meaningful harvest before winter fully arrives. Number 11. Garlic. Garlic works differently than most vegetables on this list, since you're not growing it for a fall harvest at all. You're planting it now so it has time to establish roots before winter, setting up a much bigger payoff next summer. Garlic needs full sun and loose, well-drained soil to form healthy bulbs. Separate the cloves right before planting, keeping the papery skin intact, and push each one about 2 inches deep, with the pointed end facing up. Space cloves around 6 inches apart, and once temperatures start dropping consistently, a layer of mulch helps protect them through the coldest months. Green shoots often appear within a few weeks of planting. Then growth slows or pauses once winter sets in, only to pick back up again in spring. That extended dormant period is actually what makes fall-planted garlic bulbs so much larger and more flavorful than anything planted in spring, giving the plant a full season to build up strength before it ever starts forming a bulb. Number 12. Red leaf amaranth. Unlike many fall greens, red leaf amaranth needs some residual heat to germinate well, and September still offers exactly that, letting it grow vigorously before winter takes over. That warmth works best alongside full sun and soil that drains well, though the plant still holds up reasonably well even when conditions aren't ideal. If the leaves start turning yellow later on, it's almost always overwatering at the root of it. This plant would rather go a little dry than sit in soggy soil, so easing up on watering is usually all it takes to fix things. Aphids can also show up from time to time, drawn in by warm weather, so keep an eye on the undersides of leaves and remove any affected ones early, before the problem spreads to the rest of the bed. Germination happens quickly in warm soil, often within a week, and the deep burgundy color makes a striking contrast against nearly any garden backdrop. Harvest can begin once plants reach 4 to 6 inches tall, either by cutting the whole plant at once or picking outer leaves and letting the center keep producing. Beyond the visual appeal, the flavor is mild and slightly earthy, cooking down much like spinach and holding its own in stir-fries or soups. Number 13. Cucumber. September planting works for cucumbers in warmer regions, where the growing season stretches long enough for a quick maturing variety to produce before the first real frost arrives, giving you one last harvest before the season closes out. Bush types and early pickling cucumbers are the best fit for a September planting, since they're bred to produce within a shorter window than standard slicing varieties. Consistent watering matters more with cucumbers than with most vegetables on this list, since inconsistent moisture is what leads to bitter-tasting fruit later on. Germination usually takes just a few days in warm soil, and vines start climbing or sprawling quickly once established. Fast-maturing varieties can be ready for harvest in as little as 50 days, which is exactly why timing and variety selection matter so much with a September planting. Picking cucumbers regularly, even before they reach full size, actually encourages the plant to keep producing right up until cooler weather finally slows it down. Number 14. Snow peas. Where sugar snap peas get picked for their plump, edible pods, snow peas follow a completely different rulebook. Harvested flat, before the peas inside ever get the chance to swell, giving them that crisp, delicate bite they're known for. Both can be planted this month, and both thrive best when the weather starts cooling down. Snow peas thrive in the cooling temperatures of September, and they actually prefer it that way, since heat tends to stress the plant and stunt production. Fertile, well-drained soil works best, and since these are climbing plants, setting up a trellis or support at planting time saves the hassle of doing it later once vines are already sprawling everywhere. Germination happens fairly quickly in the mild fall soil, and the vines climb steadily once they get going. Pods are usually ready to pick within about 60 days, and the key is catching them early, while they're still flat and the peas inside are barely visible. Left too long, the pods turn tough and starchy, losing the tender snap that makes snow peas worth growing in the first place. Number 15. Zucchini. In regions with warm autumns and a later first frost, particularly the south and parts of the west coast, a fast-maturing variety like Black Beauty can still be planted this month. It can produce a full harvest before cold weather shuts things down. Zucchini needs full sun and rich, well-drained soil to thrive. Plant seeds about an inch deep in warm soil. Space plants 2 to 3 feet apart to allow for proper airflow and steady growth. Warm soil is essential here. Zucchini won't germinate well once temperatures start dropping. This window only works while some late summer heat is still lingering. Germination typically takes 3 to 7 days. Growth moves quickly once the plant establishes itself. Fast varieties can be ready for harvest in as little as 45 days. That puts a September planting well within reach in the right climate. Once the plant starts producing, checking daily is worth it. Zucchini can go from perfectly sized to oversized within a single day if left unpicked.